Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about gun safety. More specifically, we're going to point that towards gun safety with children. Now, how many times a year do we hear stories of children being killed in unintentional shootings? The reality is, far too often. The CDC just published some new statistics which date between 2007 and 2011, showing that on average 62 children per year are killed in unintentional shootings. Unintentional, just so everybody understands, means there was no malice behind it, completely accidental. There are investigative reports that go with that to prove that when these cases are put into that category. Now, again, when these cases are investigated, there's always one key contributing factor that could have prevented everything, and that was the gun not being unsecured, being left laying around. Had it have been secured, all these children per year would be alive because they wouldn't have access to them. A lot of times we think of these incidents happening and it doesn't really hit home because it stretches far across the country, Washington to California to Virginia, numerous amounts of states, and you don't really think, oh, Kentucky, it doesn't really happen. But sadly, just as recent as 2013, ABC News reported that a Kentucky mother stepped outside of her home for about 5 minutes, which was long enough for her 5-year-old son to shoot his 2-year-old younger sister, which that day was his birthday, and he had just received that .22 caliber rifle for his birthday. With that being said, as parents, as just anybody who cares about children and humanity at all, we want to protect children. Now, for gun owners who think this doesn't apply to them or anybody in general, just because you don't have kids, at some point in your life, you're going to have kids, or you're going to have friends with kids or family members with kids. So if you're a gun owner, really need to keep that in mind. Now, one of the biggest problems that we have is obviously unsecured guns. So most people's kind of reaction to that is, oh, well, I put it up high, get it away from the kids. That's not a solution. There's actually documented cases where kids climb on dressers trying to get to the gun, and the dresser actually falls on them and kills them. So it's really not an answer. The real only answer is secure storage. The first type of secured storage is a gun safe. And with the gun safes, there's all kinds of varieties that we'll get to here in a second. The problem with that is a lot of people can't afford a $1,000 gun safe. They range from cheap to expensive. So if you want to use not being able to have the money to get a gun safe as an excuse, it's really not one. You can lock a room, keep the key away from kids. There's really no excuse. The other side of the argument is you keep a gun in your home for personal security. For instance, you're watching TV with your spouse, you want to have quick access to it. Here on the next slide up here, you can notice that there's going to be handgun safes. They're quick, they're accessible. They've even gotten as far as having iPod plug-ups to where you can have your alarm and your music right there. Again, quick, accessible, keeps everybody safe. There's no need for this to happen. Here's your solution to keeping a gun safe in the home. So as we think about keeping guns safe in the home, we need to understand that this is the place where our kids should feel the safest out of anywhere. Now, that also extends to cars. A lot of people think, oh, I can leave my gun in my glove box unlocked, the kids aren't going to get to it. But late 2014 in Orange County, California, CNN reported that a mother left her 5-year-old son in his car by himself, and what happened as a result was he shot himself with a 9mm pistol that was left on the floorboard. Fortunately, he was able to recover. It was non-life threatening, but it just goes to show that a car is really not an excuse to just leave unsecured because the doors can lock. Here in the next slide, what you'll see is a gun not secured properly, and then a actual device that goes inside your glove box or your center console that is a safe. It's quick access, pops right open. So again, just because it's a car, it's really no excuse. We need to be responsible. We can't allow children to keep being injured due to negligence from adults. Now, the last place you wouldn't ever think of something like this happening as a parent, especially myself, is at a friend's house. But again, statistics show that this does happen. Just as recently as January 2015 in Orange County, California, again, a computer programmer was on his way home from work, only to find out that his 9-year-old daughter had shot her 10-year-old best friend in the garage with a gun again that he kept up high on a shelf, thinking nobody would get to it, they wouldn't find it. But kids are resourceful, we need to keep that in mind. Now moving on to kind of the last portion of this informative speech here that you're hearing are some statistics. Now as you see, that blue line is the statistics of accidental death rate, and you can see it's dropping in comparison to the red, where you're seeing that the handgun and weapon supply is steadily increasing. The ATF has attributed this to the simple fact that there's continuing education. People are becoming educated on gun safety, and there's a lot more resources out there available for everybody, and this was provided by the CDC. Now, again, we need to keep our kids safe, other people's kids safe. I never thought myself as a parent to ask somebody during a sleepover, do you keep guns in your house? But we need to be vigilant, need to keep guns away from children, and the only way really to do that is to keep them locked and secured and away from them. There's no excuse for putting it up high. Again, there's documented cases showing that furniture does fall on children and they do get hurt trying to get there. The last thing I'll leave you with, if you're interested in gun safety among children, there's a very good episode from 2020 with Diane Sawyer where she does a Young Guns. It's about an hour-long documentary, and it's very educational, showing parents who didn't think that their kids knew it all where their guns were, and they walk the kids walk the cameramen and reporters around and show them exactly where these loaded shotguns are, in a closet tucked behind clothes. So again, keep your guns stored properly. It's the only way to avoid negligence with children and unintentional shootings and death among children.
Good job.